The ACT's two Senate positions have always been consistent, one Labor and one Liberal. But in recent elections, the contest has been a bit more lively, with a strong showing from the Greens. This election, new Senate voting rules could make it a much harder ask for the party to make an impact. I met Greens candidate Christina Hobbs just before she headed out door knocking today and asked her how she rates her chances.
Well, we're obviously the underdogs here in Canberra, but we're also incredibly optimistic at the Greens. We've been receiving some really encouraging feedback from the community, and so we're really looking forward to it.
It's come pretty close in the past. Does that boost your confidence? We've seen changes in Senate voting rules this time, which the ABC's own election analyst Anthony Green says makes it a tougher ask for the Greens. What are you thinking about the changes to the rules and how that might affect your chances?
Certainly, the last election in 2013, the drawn-out counting lasted for weeks before a winner was announced, so it was an incredibly tight race. Obviously, there have been some changes to the way that we elect people in the Senate, but I think the impact of that in Canberra is not really known yet. We're certainly very optimistic from what people have been telling us, so we think that this year particularly the Greens are really well positioned in Canberra, with people out there telling us that they're looking for an alternative voice.
You're running a very strong grassroots campaign. You're hitting the phones, you're hitting the streets today, door knocking residents. What are you running on? What's your platform? What are you telling people?
I think the interesting thing about how the Greens campaign is that it's not about us going out and telling people about the issues that we want them to care about. We're actually listening to people in the community and asking them what issues they're caring about. And in relation to this campaign, what people are telling us is that they're very concerned about cuts to health, education, and particularly in Canberra public services, which have a huge flow-on effect to the entire community in Canberra. And I think that these are going to be some of the key issues.
One other big federal issue for Canberrans is the cuts to national institutions. We've seen both Labor and Liberal governments make severe cuts to institutions, and they're really starting to bite. Where do you stand on that issue?
We need to look at the funding that we provide to these institutions as an investment. It's an investment in our history, in our culture, and in Canberra it's an investment in tourism. And the Greens would like to see both the major parties starting to consider funding these institutions as something that is a great thing and something we should be doing. So the Greens would certainly be looking to reinstate those funding cuts, and particularly I imagine that if a Green senator was elected from Canberra into Parliament, that neither of the major two parties would ever take our city for granted again.
Another big issue and very relevant in Canberra is the issue of same-sex marriage. The debate federally seems to have stalled somewhat. Where do you stand on that issue, and what do you think could progress the debate forward?
So certainly the Greens have been really leading the charge on marriage equality. And what we've seen is a number of politicians from the Labor Party that are starting to sway. So Katie Gallagher's work's been great. But what we know is that unless we get rid of and remove some of those very conservative politicians from Parliament, like Zed Seselja, there's a chance that we'll never have marriage equality in Australia.
Christina Hobbs, thank you very much for your time and good luck with the rest of the campaign.
Great, thank you.